Hello everyone, my name is Tiffany. I'm the Tipsy Artist. Today we are painting this beautiful Longhorn, and it's actually going to be a combination of two different paintings that I've done in the past. So this is more of the style that we're going to go for, and I love it because we're going to be using palette knife and brushes. And then this is a painting that I've done in the past where I've used kind of a pounce effect. It's very textural, but I'm a little bit more fond of this particular look now. So I'm going to be using this style more so on this. So I'll be teaching a little bit of both, to give you an idea of how to do this textural pounce effect, but I'm also going to just finish up with a palette knife look. So I just love the way it looks. So this gives you a good idea of how it looks. I'm going to keep this view nearby in the camera. We'll place this off to the side for right now. And then of course we have one of our awesome painting kits that goes with this. And it has a traceable with it. So this is your 9x12 canvas, and it's got your line art here and the transfer paper. And I'm going to go ahead this time with this particular one. I've got the transfer paper lined up to where it's flush with the bottom of the canvas, so that it does make sure that you've got this line here all the way down. That's important. So we make sure to line that up here. And then helpful hints. We've got our transfer paper here. I always keep it nice and free. I don't tape the sides so that I can lift up, check my work as I go and do the trace. And then other really important tip is dull gray side faces up, shiny black side faces the canvas. That way you will make sure that all your work will go to good use, because sometimes if you do it on that, I've seen people do it on accident where they have the wrong side facing up and they'll go to all that trouble and look, and none of their work is transferred. So do that. You'll be really in great shape. And I'm going to go and place this off to the side. We are going to switch to an aerial view here, so you have a nice, awesome look at all the work. And here I am in my studio. So it's awesome. So glad y'all are here with me today. All right, we're going to switch here. It's going to be a little bit noisy because I'm going to be switching stools and all that good stuff. But here we go, switching camera views. And I'm going to get a fresh pencil. All right, so again, this first one gives you a good idea of basic shape. And I may switch back and forth. Actually, I'm going to start with this one first because this is really good for the base. And then I'll probably switch to the other painting at the end so that you can get a better idea of different technique with our palette knife. All right. My precious dog is coming in. I do have a little doggy door right next to me while I work. I kind of wish y'all could see it in a shot because it would be kind of fun to see her come in and out. She's super cute. All right, so here we go. Got my little papers on. All right, so real quick here, a little overview of your supplies. You will have your paint nearby that's going to be brand new. And then your brush kit will come with, mine's a little bit loved here, but I've got Mama, Little Buddy, and then Little Bit. And then I've got my napkins, palette knife, got your plates. I've got a little bit of starter paint out here to begin with. And then you will need to make sure you've got some water nearby. Any kind of like cup will do, but have it nearby. And of course your pencil is here. And your kit also comes with a permanent marker and a pencil. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start this transfer paper. It is just as simple as drawing over the line that I already have in place for you. So I'm just going to follow along here with my pencil. And then just trace, super easy. Top of the head here. And it is kind of hard to see with the pencil. So as you go, you do want to make sure and check your work too. The pencil looks almost identical to the line work here. And that's why we keep the sides free and clear so that you can lift up and check. Make sure this is still on view, kind of. Sort of have an off view there. I'm going to show you what I mean real quick. So I'm going to lift up, and you can see, there it is, it's already working. Little ear. What a cute little ear. Long horns and a long face. Make sure I keep this in view. Whenever it's dark, I go ahead and color that in too. That's a nice reference for you later, because if you leave it as an empty space, it can be a little bit confusing as to what to do. So go ahead and match the template here with whatever's blackened in. Go ahead and pencil in over the top. Let's see. It's looking good. This is a real simple transfer. There's not a whole lot of detail to work in, which is nice. And then there's a little bit of optional shading in here. You're honestly just going to paint right over that, so it's really not even that necessary. It's a little bit faint. And then I've got my mountains here in the background. I just take that right off the page. Brown line all the way off. And then same thing here on the other side. All the way off. Let's check. A little bit more work. I missed this little line here on the ear. I'm going to do a little bit of this shading to match. I use my pencil in the same direction that I used to create this. I'm going to place it to the side, parallel to the canvas. Just kind of do a little bit of pressure here. And then if you do want to match a little bit of this shading here, then I'm just going to again do this very similar kind of stroke here, where basically it's just pressing on the side of the pencil. You can just make that little pattern occur. This is not very necessary because you're just going to be painting over a lot of this. And what's nice is, in the same way that it looks here on the front of the paper, it will take on that same quality, have those same characteristics in the actual canvas. And if you want, I don't have mine darkened in, but as I'm looking here as a reference, I noticed the ears are really dark in here. So if you want to do a little bit of that too, just to kind of help you with your eye, remember what's a little bit dark, you can go ahead and do that section of the ear, do a little bit of shading. And then let's take a look. Very nice, very pretty. Okay, so let's double check. I think we're really great on details. And so I can go ahead, I'm going to place this pencil off to the side. And then I can go ahead and remove this. This can just go in the trash. Right. So one other step here that I like to do for beginners so that I do not lose my work here. This is what the permanent marker is for primarily. It's also good for eyes and details and signature at the end, but initially it can also be very handy to go ahead and do another little outline around your work so that the paint will not completely cover when you do like a wash, and then that way you don't lose your artwork. So sometimes it's nice to have the freedom to do a wash of paint and then have this bleed through initially, and you don't lose your beautiful shape. Not until you actually have intention to cover it up, which we can easily do, but initially it helps a lot. But sometimes this really light line can really get covered up quickly, easily. And so this just keeps that from happening. So I'm absolutely not going to do any of the shading, but I'm going to get the main shape. And I definitely want to do like the little nostrils here that are blackened in, and the eyes. That's really helpful too. Oops. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and do my ground line. It's also helpful. And the mountain line. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start with my mama brush here. Yours will be brand new, so I recommend going ahead and putting it in the water a little swish around, and then dry it off on your napkins. It's just moist, nice and flexible. And then we're going to go ahead and start with some titanium white. And I'm going to use a little bit of this primary cyan blue. Now your paint will be new, so you'll have to lift off a little silver foil liner. Mine's already been used a little bit, so I'm just going to place that out there. And you always want to recap your paint, keep it fresh. It'll be good for a lot of uses. And then I've got some white already out. And then I also want to have a little bit of our Mars Blackout. And if you're just putting it out for the first time, I would recommend like little quarter-sized dollops of those other colors for right now. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start with a dollop of the white paint and a little touch of that primary cyan blue. And then do a little teeny amount of the black. Just gives you a little bit of that slate. Kind of close it off a little bit. So we keep dipping into that blue. You can intensify the shade of your sky a little bit more. If you want a brighter blue sky, you can certainly do that too. And then I'm going to add a little bit of water to that. That will help that paint flow into the space. I'm going to do a little bit of a crisscross back and forth here. And then as I'm going, I'm going to go ahead and pick up a little bit of this pure white and push that back and forth. Then a little bit more blue too, to have little sections of a little bit more of that intense blue in your sky. That little crisscrosses almost feels like you make little tiny little X's back and forth. And then a little bit of white. A little bit of white, a little bit of blue, just crisscross back and forth. Remember, your water can help that really spread and flow into the surface area. White, so we're kind of alternating between a lot of these colors, the white and then the blue, and then that kind of light slate gray that we mixed up. And just crisscrossing back and forth. And then a little bit of water. Remember that too along the way. That really helps the paint flow into the surface area. Now, as we get near these horns, we're going to have to do a little bit of cut-in work. So I'm going to do a firm press on the edge of the brush. Look at my edge here. I've got a nice thin line. So I'm going to use this to cut in around my horns. Especially since it's such a long line here. And then here is a little bit, if you're a little bit nervous about some of these really small areas, then you can do a little twist into the paint and come around that like that. And then this is really helpful too for like around these little tiny areas here. Little rinse out, dry off. It's really important to make sure you keep your brushes washed and clean throughout the process. Acrylic paint does set up and dry very quickly, so you can't just leave them out here on the side with paint on them. And then we'll just crisscross back and forth. Remember that little bit of water. And kind of underneath the horn here. And just kind of feather out the strokes here again, just crisscross back and forth. We're going to come up above the mountain. And let's grab a little bit of white too, kind of feather that back in, back and forth. Above the mountain. And just a little bit of crisscross back and forth. Feather all this in. And the clouds can change a little bit as we go. If you want to have a little bit more cloud cover, you certainly can. I'm going to show you a bit more here with brushwork, and then I'll also show you some more like textural cloud cover at the end with the palette knife. But you can just pick up a little bit more of this white and just kind of push it across here. And lots of just pure white and just kind of laying it back on. The blue still has a little bit of wetness happening, so there's still some blendability happening here. And you can also add a little bit of water too, so that you don't have just a line happening. So the clouds can be a little bit subtle, or you can add, big sections. You can really lay on really thick amounts of cloud cover too. So I'm going to show you a little bit of that if you want a little bit more of the dramatic cloud effect happening here. So now I'm going to hold the brush more over to the side, parallel to the canvas. And then softly blend that out around the edges. Light, gentle hand. Grab a little bit more here from the corner, kind of pull that in. Light, gentle hand. Again, do this crisscross, just back and forth. And then you can come back in with a little bit of that blue around the edges. And kind of watch your handle too. It needs to be, again, out to the side, not like this, because if you're doing this, then you're applying too much pressure and you're just scraping off that paint. So we need this brush more out to the side, parallel to the canvas. That's going to give you that light, gentle hand. A little bit of more white cover here. A soft, light, gentle hand to softly blend that in. And lightly drag it down here into the sky. Add a little bit of water. Make it softly blend in. And a little water. Softly blend this in. Light hand brush parallel to the canvas. Again, I'm just picking up lots of this pure white and just laying it right on. Flat side of the brush, again, brush hole parallel to the canvas. So I've got a really pretty sky in place here. And then next, let's go ahead and get some of our mountains done. So we're looking at a much deeper, darker blue. And so I'm gonna, and a lot more gray. So I'm gonna pick up a lot more of this black here. And our primary cyan blue. And let's just add a little touch of white. We're definitely going in for that kind of darkness here. So still using the Mona. I'm gonna place this into the mountain. And you can always use your little kiddos if you're a little bit nervous about getting close. And south pulling. I'm gonna go ahead and grab a little bit more of this primary cyan blue and a little bit more of that blue to pop in there. I'll be touching into that a little bit as I work in with this dark kind of charcoal slate gray. coming off the edge there. Now I'm gonna go ahead and bring the brush over to the side. I'll pick up a little bit more of that blue. Place it in over the top here. Just light touches of it. And now more of that charcoal gray. We're going to push this in on this side. So by the way, Little Betty also works pretty good in this little area too. So if you feel a little bit more comfortable with the smaller brush, Little Betty's pretty awesome in here too. Do a little bit with him so he doesn't feel left out. Okay, I'm going to rinse out, dry off. Add a little bit more of that blue. A little bit more blue. And just kind of touch that in there. And you can also, it looks really pretty either way, but you can also add a little bit more of this white in here too. I'll touch that in, give a little bit of texture in here. Right, just touch in there. All right. And then our next step will be to go ahead and have a lot of this green that's going to come in. Rinse out, dry off. So I'm going to use a little bit of this bright yellow green. A little bit of that here. The cadmium green would also be quite lovely. Oh, there's that silver foil liner that I was talking about earlier. Let's do a little pea size amount there. Now, first thing I'm going to come back in and just kind of do a little bit of this dark black here to begin with on the ground. I'm going to start with some of that. And you can add a little bit of water too, that kind of flow into the space. You just let a dry brushing happen so that water really helps. That's my sweet puppy dog. You hear that nearby? I can do a little layer of black over here too. Start with a little bit of that shadow. All right, now I'm going to move these down here for a second. Do a quick wipe here. I'm going to pick up some of this bright yellow green, cadmium green, and a little bit of white. I'm going to start to work that in. Softly fade over the top of that black. Light hand. And all the way down to the base. And same thing here on the other side. Just soft fade over the top of that black. That black really plays well, pairs well with the green, softly blends with it. Let's add a little bit of white too. And a little bit of water helps that paint flow into the surface area. And you can take that brush more over to the side, just softly blend that in. And a little bit more white on this side too, with that light green. All right, and then we've got some golden tones in here too. So I'm gonna let my mama rest for a second. I'm gonna grab some primary yellow. Put a little dollop of that there. And then we need to mix up some brown. So we're gonna need some orange. And a nice big dollop of that. So initially, to mix up that brown, I'm going to I need to really rinse this out. That wide right now. So I'm going to do some black in with my orange. That's going to make my brown. Let's add a little bit of yellow with that too. And then we can also add a little bit of white to that. And kind of lighten it up so we can get some different shades in there. And I'm going to just do some quick little sweeps, just kind of back and forth in here. And forth. Right hand. Back and forth. And a little bit of water. So it really helps. I'm just going to rinse out. All right, now we talked about a little bit of that pounce effect earlier. So that is a desirable texture to you. then you can use your little buddy here, and we're going to grab some of this black and the green, the dark pine green, and you can just kind of hit on the side of the brush and tap, tap, tap for that texture. That's really nice. Tap, tap, tap. That gives you that texture like what you see over here. We continue using that dark pine green here at the base. And then same thing here on the other side. Like that down. And let's go ahead and tap into a little bit of that yellow too as we go. And we can just kind of push that in a little bit and get some of those highlights up here. And then a bit of that yellow. You can have a little bit of white to that yellow too. Kind of soften it up a little bit. I'm just going to tap that in here on this side as well. Tap, tap, tap. Very therapeutic. Yeah. Okay. Let's go ahead and rinse out. Dry off. And so much. Dry off. Okay, we need to start working on what do we need to do first? Since we have a lot of that brown, let's go ahead and start to work that into the head here a little bit. And I'm going to take my little bit brush. Some of this white. I'm going to lighten this up a little bit. A little twirl into the paint so that you load up the brush, but it also twirls into a nice fine point. We're going to go ahead and work this into the face here. And I'm sure you're starting to see how the line that we had there, it's getting completely covered up, but it did serve us well when we aided it. I'm going to do a little line around the ear. I hold it like a pencil, do that little twirl, give me a nice fine point. Same thing here. Really careful around the eyes. Very gentle hand, just barely touch the canvas. and make sure you do that little twirl so that you get a nice fine point at the end. And if you do have a little oopsie, you come back in and redefine the eyes. Really helpful hint is to wait for it to completely dry and use your little permanent marker that we provided to retouch up the eye. That will help give you some precise movement with that tool that's easier than the brush if you need it. It's helpful for beginners. And this texture here, you can kind of lay the brush more over to the side, just kind of crisscross back and forth here. This white in here. A little bit more texture here. Just kind of crisscross back and forth. A little bit of crisscross back and forth here. A little bit of white and a little bit of orange. We're going to get something a bit peachier here. Look at that. I'm going to grab more brown, just coming right over the top here. Crisscross that, get that contrast. Now, rinse out a little bit. And I'm going to grab some yellow too. That'll be nice. A little yellow, and orange, and a white. And a little bit of that brown in there too. But I'm going to lighten up in here. I'm going to get this right in through here. And underneath. And then I want a little bit of some pink on the nose. A little primary magenta, super tiny amount. A little bit of white. Let's mix that in together. And then over the top here. Now you can see I'm going to have to come back and do some more work on my nostrils and even the eyes here, and that's okay. And I am going to paint mine in, but again, as beginners, if you need to use that permanent marker, just the trick is you have to make sure and do it when your paint is completely dry, or it will really just ruin your marker. Wet paint kills the marker instantly, so to have to be careful with that. I'm gonna do a little like around here, a little wash, just kind of wiggle that back and forth over that paint. Wiggle it back and forth. Lightly cover that, or lightly subduing that pink. So it's just a little bit of that brownish pink. Into my black here again. little touch. Fill that in again. And let's get those eyes a little bit too. A little tiny touch. A little bit brush. Around a little tiny circle in here, and it comes to a little point in there. That helps that get redefined again. And I'm going to come in with a little bit of this black in here. And you can grab a teeny amount of water, but be real cautious because they can get carried away. Blow into areas you don't like to flow in. Same thing here, a little bit of black. This little fly, boy, he has been my buddy. Well, he thinks he's he's not my buddy. I'm his buddy for sure. He likes me. I don't like him much for him, but all right. Edge. A little bit of water to help that flow. And let's grab a little of that light brown. Light brown near the eye. It'll flow in with more of that brown. You grab a little more of that orange too, kind of add that rust quality to it. A little bit of water again. We're gonna grab a little more white and that yellow, lighter shade. So push that in here. We can adjust the light. Winter light. It's not filming friendly. It's super bright. Okay, so sorry about that. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and it'll almost feel like little parentheses on either side. This little hair texture. That white and that yellow and that brown. And do little tiny pushes, vary them a little bit, and like almost like little soft parentheses. A little bit more orange. So touch of that. Orange in there. A lot more orange. Just kind of push that. Just kind of go back and forth this way, a little bit of hair texture. Doing a little bit of this upward stroke here, get more of that hair texture in through the middle. Move this down to the middle. Little tiny like hair strokes. Alternate to each side, one this way, another one this way. A little bit more brown, and I'm going to sweep over the top of this black and the end. Slide two. It's a little fresh. Push. And then all right, we'll certainly get this really pretty little texture in there. All right, let me go ahead and work on my horns a little bit. We've got our white, black. Get a little bit more of this gray in here. And then on the side. Right. And we have a little water here too. Help it flow into the space. All right, now let's swirl out here a little bit of white. A little bit of white up at the very tip top. I'm gonna shift this to where I can have a better angle to do this. Soft fade, put that light gray right over the top of that white again from the bottom. We do still have that little white highlight up at the top though. Like that. Go into this darker brown. A little bit of water here. Do a little swirl. Come back over my ear here. Maybe find that ear. And then also just a bit of black, a bit of brown. Take a bit brown. Work into this side here a little bit. I still want that black defining, but I don't want it to be such a, looks like just a thick line like that. Come back in, soften that a little bit. Softer, lighter brown. Just adding a little bit more texture here. We're going to come through the middle, like a little bit this side, like a little parentheses. And then again on this side, I think a little parentheses, and then we kind of feather it out to this side. Little tiny, almost like little tiny hair strokes over and over again. I'm going to crisscross either side here. Wrap it around here. Now the texture just crisscross back and forth, a little bit of water. For that darker brown, we're going to come in around the horns here, do little touches. And a little bit more water to help pull in more of that paint in there and some more of that. Just adding more and more layers here. A little bit of that black and that brown. I'm also going to do just do a little bit of this tap, tap, tap for some texture. Just tiny little taps. This creates a nice little furry look. And then over the top of the nose too, I'm going to come in with that same color that we had earlier. Warmer. A little bit brush here. I'm just going to do a little tiny tap. This is a little bit darker, but a little tiny tapping in. That darker shade, and just tap, tap, tap here on the black, darker brown. Put that texture in there too. A little that blackish brown. Tap, 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 that texture in here too. Tapping into that darker texture. Those splotchy little patterns that we initially had. Little taps. All right, rinse out. I'm going to come back in. I hit those nostrils again, because when I do all that tapping, sometimes I can be a little bit obscured again. So I'm going to read my nose. All right, that's looking really pretty. And then there's a lot more of this. You can actually just go nuts with texturizing. It's great for therapy. You can take your little buddy brush and just go like back more into this black and this pine green, and just continue to kind of tap in here. And it's always really fun. There's also that little bit of texture you can do with the palette knife that we talked about. So I do want to give you that option as well. So I've got a palette knife here, and I'm going to bring this guy down because this is one of my more recent paintings. So in case you are a fan of this and you like the look of it, it can be fun to kind of pull a little bit of this look in here as well. So I'm going to get a little bit of white. And if you don't like it, no problem. You just leave it just the way it is and go, yep, I'm done. And then you're good. And that looks more like the original that I have here. Now, if you want to add a little bit more of this, then you can pick up a little bit of this white here and a little bit of this primary cyan blue. And let's do a little touch of the black here too. And so you can just do little tiny touches to give you that little bit of texture happening here on the mountain. Just kind of going to touch on this side, load it up here on your plate, and then just do tiny little touches. Like push down with pressure and then do a little like pull and then lift off with a light hand. Little touches here in the peaks here with the tip. You can see how it's kind of changing it a little bit. Yeah, I do need to get a good angle. I'm going to have to change the direction here. It's kind of get a little more of this black in here. Get more paint as well. Palette knife does require a little more paint. Use more. So it's just it's a really pretty texture over the surface here. It's a little different. It looks like there's more like snow in the background, you know. Having a little accident there. Over here to the other side. Do a little push back and forth. Hopefully just kind of go into that shape. Get a little bit more white. Primary cyan blue, and you could do a hint of that black in there. Do that pretty slate color. Top. Right, so you can already see how the texture has changed just a little bit here. And you want to completely change color. Like we're gonna come in here on the grass a little bit. So I'm gonna do a little bit more of just that pure black. Pull that down a little bit. And then I'm going to get some more of that green. So we have our cadmium green, a little bit of black in there. It was already in there. A little bit of white too. We've got that loaded up here. You kind of just do little textural touches of that down over the base here. I go side to side and pull up from the base. A little bit side to side and pull down. And do a little bit of a wipe here off. And then it can also be done in your sky too. So for example, you've got your white. This one's got a bit of a mix of things happening there, but mostly white. But you can have fun with this too and kind of scrape this across your sky. Really pretty texture back there. Vary your direction a little bit. I'll come down from the top, light drags. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna get a little bit closer here. Still revealing some of that blue sky from behind, but looks like those clouds. I got round. Little wipes here and there. So we've got this really cool like palette knife texture happening in the sky. And then you can also, pick up like a little tiny amount of white here and just do a quick little drag like right there. Get some final texture here too. Just do a little tiny pull. It's right there in the corner. Just like that. With those darker colors too, and just be very cautious with this because you've got a big instrument and you're coming in with just little tiny touches. Let's create like little bits of texture happening in this small space to kind of give it a look that's similar to the rest now. Try picking up a little bit more. Just doing little tiny touches and then scrapes with it. I'm gonna grab a little bit of this black and the orange. We're gonna get a bit more of that brown. I'm just kind of doing little nice bits of texture with this instrument too, just to kind of make another layer of texture. So again, some dramatic, some subtle changes, but that's fun with the palette knife. So you be the judge which look you liked better. They're both fun, I think. So, and obviously this is a very different painting than this one. So it's a very dramatically different look at the very end with a different result here. But again, we've got this very fun textural look happening. So if you feel adventurous and you want to use your palette knife and just kind of dig in a little bit, well, go for it. I think it's a lot of fun. And one more little scrape here. All right. And at some point you have to know, okay, I'm going to quit. I'm done. All right. So your signature that happens, you want to make sure that it is on dry paint. And I think the easiest thing to do is to use your permanent marker and sign over the top. This is a real jewel for that. But you cannot use it, remember, until the paint is completely dry. So do go ahead and wait, let that completely set up and dry, and then you can use that. And then I think we are absolutely done. Unless I play with it more, when I get done, that's been known to happen. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It was a true pleasure, so much fun. And I look forward to seeing y'all again very soon. And all the supplies again are on our website at tipsyartist.com. Toodles. Much love.